Nice cold start. Hey, welcome to the Floor U podcast. Trying something different today with Zoom? No music for you. Joined as always by the Gluru, Sonny Callahan. Sonny, how you doing?
Hello. How's everybody doing?
Doing
They're
good.
going to hang up already because you just didn't talk for like 10 seconds. Said recording, and Paul's going, looking in.
Yeah, well, I heard music in my head.
Yeah.
I got songs in my head. I'm sitting outside on Sonny's porch right now, so we were going to do it in the same spot, but I figured if he could punch me during the middle of the thing, it wouldn't be a good idea. So
I don't want him on my mountain either.
we are joined today, very, very fortunately, by a good friend of mine, Lisa Lavender, and her head of training. What's your title there, Chuck?
Director of Education.
Director of Education, Chuck Boutall. Was that
Good
right?
to be here, Paul.
Good job. Good job.
Nicely done. I wasn't going to try it.
And it's only 2 syllables.
So Lisa Lavender, she's the owner with her husband Ted Lavender of Brooks Fire and Restoration and Restoration Technical Institute. The Technical Institute does a ton of training that we're going to talk about. She is a BS in accounting. Where'd you get your degree?
Penn State.
Anyway.
Lying.
That's right.
I'm in Big Ten country, so not that we have any sports anymore. Anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah, really.
And for those of you who listened a couple of episodes ago, we talked about Restoration Technology Institute. We spoke about Lisa, and now we have her on as a guest. So thank you, Mr. Viola.
Well, thank you for having me. Yes, Mark's
No,
awesome.
I'm glad you can have it. I've heard your name for 15 years, but I've never met you. So this is close enough. This is COVID meet, I guess. So
It's awesome.
So Chuck, you own the AirQuest systems, huh? You made dehumidifiers, desiccant dehumidifiers, and portable air conditioners?
Yeah, basically, I started in this industry when I was a mainframe computer engineer. And that industry was starting to take a tank. So I answered an ad, went to work for a company called Cargo Care, who in the U.S. is a manufacturer and licensor at the time of Munter's desiccant rotors. So I worked with them installing and basically selling and leasing and renting systems to every application, including drying out large lost buildings. But anywhere, super tankers, dog food manufacturing, quite a bit of different applications for dry air out there. And so literally I moved on into that and started drying buildings as a subcontract business for people and didn't really like anything out there. So I went ahead and designed our own systems designed kind of just for rental businesses. And that got sold up. Phoenix purchased that back in 2007. So it's been a little while since I've been there. And I started training full time at that point in time, trying to semi-retire. And Lisa dipped in about 18 months ago and says, no, I got something for you. And so actually it's about 2 years now. And we built probably the best hands-on training center. And that's what we've all been talking about, doing the flooring training in the Northeast and everything else, is we've got the huge facility for it. And then all of a sudden, everything we built, COVID hits and everything spins on a dime. And now we're podcasting and broadcasting and netcasting and everything else out there.
We're really casting and recording.
That's exactly. It's really something else. But, the opportunity that comes out of it's been fantastic, though. I mean, what we're doing now is able to reach out to so many people. I mean, right now we've got somebody from literally the Middle East signed in to a carpet cleaning class that's going on right now that Mark Violan's having. So, this is not somebody's going to be able to jump on a plane and fly to the U.S. and take a carpet cleaning class. But now because of the technology we have, it opens it up to people all around the globe to see the standards and make sure it's done right.
And it's funny.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, Mark, it's funny you bring that up because I was just saying to some of my coworkers here how Mark moved me at the beginning of class as we did a special welcome to that student who was just beaming at the opportunity for formal training and has actually been doing this for years, doing their work. And Mark was like, I can't even express how moved I am and overwhelmed at the opportunity to teach these skills to people all over the world. So, you know, it's just like, and, you know, we're also busy just making it all happen behind the scenes. It was just like one of those moments. And I was like, oh yeah, that is so cool. And it just kind of gave me chills. And, you know, I write a monthly article for R&R magazine, and I just wrote about the new world of training and a little bit of our journey. And I kind of reflected on the old farmer story of good luck, bad luck, who knows, you know, and it's a whole series of events. And the moral of the story is you don't know the end outcome till you've gone through all these events. It's not just a single thing that determines your destiny. And, you know, I kind of went, okay, we started out the year, sold out classes, filled with people, filled with cheer. And then March, we had to cancel 6 months worth of classes. And then, you know, we're presented with all these opportunities and the fulfilling experience of having an even broader reach in this new world. So it's been a pretty cool, crazy ride the last 6 months for sure.
Yeah, we've learned a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sure your industry is like ours. If COVID wouldn't have come through, we wouldn't even be talking about video chats, video training, webinar training. Everything was so personal. It was person to person. They were reluctant. They didn't want to do it. So it sounds like your industry was pretty close to ours on the installation side, that, you know, if we count any good to come out of this entire process, this may be it, because I think it is going to benefit, like what you said, having someone across the world being able to take a class. I'd be beaming if I was Mark too. I'll have to text him later and let him know. That's pretty cool to have that on your resume.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. And, you know, it's funny because everybody's hesitant, because one of the things I think we enjoy is working with people and helping them in their careers and development and those relationships. And we still get them. We still have that opportunity. And it's really cool. Like we're staying in contact. We are talking. We have repeat people coming back and reaching out to us. So, you know, I think the initial reaction is like, this is going to be totally different. We're not going to have those relationships built, but we do. And we're deliberate about that, but it can happen for sure. And it's really cool.
Yeah. And the same with me being a small business owner. My only expense was going to visit customers. Yeah. So if I don't have to go visit customers, that helps the bottom line. So the lack of sales with less travel, I was able to survive. But people understood, you know, they didn't expect you to be there every other week or every 2 weeks. You could just make that phone call. And I hope that part stays in our industry. Yeah. It makes it a little easier for everybody.
For sure.
But like you said earlier, Chuck, excuse me, I do miss seeing everybody. I think it was you who was saying that. But I do miss seeing everybody in the group. There's about 25 of us who see each other at, 10 or 12 events a year. I haven't seen them since March. That's FCICA was the last thing that we all went to, and we all went home and were quarantined when we got home. So
we've the IICRC has always been very reluctant. Really, the business model at the IICRC was for in-person classes, and there was a lot of momentum going towards online training and streaming training anyway, but that probably put us ahead about 2 years, if I had to guess, to the point that we've gotten there. So it's made changes that aren't going to change back. No. That's for sure.
It really wasn't. I mean, we basically had the same thing. Our plan was a 2-year plan, and like Lisa and I have been joking about it, the 2-year plan to go online training became the 2-month plan.
I believe it.
Yeah, it was like April and May, and here we are. Guess what? Man, industry's taken out the first class, and it sold out in like 11 hours or something like that. It was crazy. So Destry, we announced it through ISSA group and IICRC and SCRT and all of the usual groups that we bounce out the emails for them to advertise it. And literally they were limited to 20 a class at the time up until July when it changed. And it sold out like literally inside of a day. It was like some kind of crazy
Wow.
concert sellout or something. And
Well,
we were just blown away by it. And, first class, we had somebody from Puerto Rico who, once again, I can't take a plane to the United States. So here I am. And it's amazing.
the IICRC didn't have classes for 2.5 months pretty much
Yeah.
at all because it wasn't allowed. And we got some numbers, and they're recovering nicely. I mean, it's starting to turn back towards the amount of increase because of the streaming and online. I mean, it may not even make much of a difference at the end of the year. So it's helped. That would have been really hard on the IICRC to lose all of those certifications, all those tests, all those classes.
Evolve
Like
would
usual,
be gone.
everybody's going to look back and say we should have done that a long time ago, right?
Well, I think everybody was trying to kind of get it going, but honestly, there was no market for it. And, truly, even myself, I still like having, if I'm going to have 30 people, and I'd rather have them in the classroom and then do the hands-on with them. And I think that's always going to be the first best ability. And especially when we're talking about doing installation and stuff, the videos are fantastic. It helps out the ones who can't get there. And a lot of the people who are already working with craftsmen, but they need the fundamental skills and everything else, they can kind of learn that hands-on on the job with other people. But when it comes down to it, there's always going to be a certain amount of hands-on, I think, by the people who want to be just, like literally, you still got people out there learning how to build wooden boats by hand, an 11-week course with a master. So,
it's amazing. It's amazing how productive we can be when we get put in that sink or swim situation.
Yeah. Yep.
Because it was do this or do nothing.
Yeah.
Or you're out. So
Gunny Highway,
NAFCT, we're out. We didn't do anything. The school did.
It was wild, man. I mean, we scrambled, but as soon as IICRC came in the live stream, and it was like, "Whew, okay, this is going to work." And thank God some of the platforms are out there, like Zoom and whatnot, to keep it going. But yeah, you're right, Sonny. It's like Gunny Highway always says: adapt and overcome. Right? It's either that or you're going to be overcome, one or the other. And so it really has been. But it's like with Mark, we send out packages where they've got sample kits of carpet and different things are stained and everything else. So depending on whether it's the spotting class or the cleaning class, in repair and reinstallation, they have to glue their own pieces of carpet back together using the seam sealer, not using the seam sealer, and seeing the difference. So as it goes, it can be adapted more and more. But I think just bringing more awareness to that, you just can't paste glue on a piece of concrete and stick something to it and know it's going to be fine.
Right.
Is really more than anything else that this is going to bring to people. That there is not only is there a technique, but there's a science and a technique that has to be taken care of in order to put it down right and expect a good result out of it. So that's what I'm really kind of hoping that the internet does for us more than anything else, is just raise the.
Yeah. Well, me and Chuck have talked about this a lot because we're like, it's not going anywhere. But so we thought about, we'll make some specialized programs for hands-on, but it's also kind of brought to the forefront the concept of mentorship. And, I think the next phase is that we more formalize and develop some of those programs like a lot of the trades have. I mean, the reality is you don't become a proficient, experienced flooring installer from 2 days of class. That's the reality. It's field experience. It's being out there. You get the fundamentals of.
You can only be an inspector to do that.
Oh, okay, inspectors. But I joke with Mark, Violand. I haven't seen you install, but he amazes. I call him. He'll probably be horrified that I'm saying this because I call him a ballerino at Carpet Tools because he puts his, belt on and he just floats around.
Oh, I'm going to use that.
Don't tell him I said that. Oh, is everybody going to get
He
this?
didn't listen, so you're good.
Okay, don't tell him. So, no, because he's so graceful and amazing and efficient and fluid in his movement. And I'm like, you don't get like that from one class. Bottom line, he got that way from, his 40 years, I think, of doing it in the field. And so I think whether it's the restoration, the drying, all the trades. You know, we're gonna see a push that we really need to develop not just these formal curriculums and get them that formalized training, but we have to kind of give some guidance on mentorship and programs like that to really kind of bring everything together. And, you know, we send some of our team members go through the electrical apprentice program and the, you know, plumbing programs, and that's what they do. You know, they work under their master, they get hours signed off, they have to have dealt with X amount of situations. And that's their journey. It's not just their classroom, but they have extensive classroom training as well. So I think we can all evolve, you know, in little baby steps in our new training world to this. So
I think Mark,
I just want to say, anybody who knows Mark Viola knows exactly what you meant. When you
okay,
said
thank
that.
you. Okay.
I can totally picture him doing that and everything being right where it needs to be. And
I feel like I go to a Broadway show and I watch him. I just can't. He mesmerizes me, and I've seen him for 12. He was just telling the class
I can
that
only
he's.
defend so much.
I just go like this because I'm like, he's so graceful with carpet tools. I don't know how to explain it.
just pirouetting between each move.
Yes. Oh my gosh, he's gonna kill me. You know.
I'm
Okay.
gonna mail him a tutu.
Oh my gosh. He's gonna so kill me.
Oh, poor Mark.
He'll laugh because I've been saying that for years.
Would that be the first NAFCT tutu?
Yeah, I'll get the logo right on the side.
Well, maybe we can turn it into a award, though. You know, like once a year. No, we don't want to do that. Oh,
Mark
man.
Viola Award is just a ballerina.
Oh my gosh. This is totally spiraled out of control.
At least let's give it to Mikhail Baryshnikov or somebody like that. At least
I mean it with the utmost respect and
no,
awe
he truly,
of his skills.
he actually is. He's like one motion. He's just fluid as everything is laid out, and he just moves through it. And
such a knowledgeable man. Yeah.
Yeah,
We joke, we all have the utmost respect for Mark.
Yeah. And we do love him. That's why we pick on him. Otherwise, it would be a whole nother picking on, actually. But
okay, for everybody that's watching, everybody that watches this, just don't bring it up to Mark.
Oh, there we go. Keep it quiet. Yeah.
He also inspired me to go home and vacuum today. So
There we go.
Now that I believe.
Yeah, right.
No, and that's
wanted
what's
to-
amazing about it is we had the ability to take people with the masterful mind of somebody like Mark and introduce them to people that would just absolutely have zero opportunity to be able to, you know, get a hold of that knowledge and take it in and to make it their own. And, you know, it's just going to be the boom for, I just see people everywhere being able to move their businesses forward, their livelihoods inside of other people's businesses forward and everything else because of it. And, you know, and then less errors and aggravations out there. Because, I mean, we all think about, you know, a lot of times, you know, well, somebody's carpet in somebody's house, somebody's floor in somebody's house. But when this thing goes commercial and people make mistakes, these flooring lawsuits get into the millions of dollars.
Oh, sure.
You know. And,
well,
you know,
yeah, and you know, it's one of those things that, like in reinstallation class, I mean, Mark goes over, you know, the process of just a general installation of carpet, and I'm like, you sit there and you're like, how many people don't know that there's any kind of standardized process in order to this? Most people don't. And so when you think about getting this out, all it does is it raises the bar. It makes us all better professionals. It helps educate consumers. It's a win-win, really, I think, for everybody. And it's not that people are trying to do it. They don't know what, it's that old saying, you don't know what you don't know till you know, you know.
Right. Tell us a little bit about that class you were just talking about, the reinstallation training. What does that cover?
Oh, well, I love it. I actually I joke every year when I promote it. I say, I wish they would rename it because it's called repair and reinstallation, but you really understand the basics of just general installation of carpet. You learn how to do repairs, seams, but you gain an eye, like, not that I'm an expert, but, you know, just little things like examining a seam and seeing if seam sealer was used, you know, and that is the the things you learn, and just even as a restorer, I mean, it's the last class people take if they take it. And then once they take it, they go, you were right. It should have been the first class I took, because you learn so much about carpet. Carpet's still out there. It's almost always affected. You develop your eye for pre-existing conditions, which allows you to manage expectations, which I'm big on, and document properly. And it helps you manage and train your team, subcontractors, and everything by just knowing what you learn from that class. So it's much bigger to me. And even like I tell, like, if you clean carpet, you need to be able to walk in and identify if a carpet was not installed properly, because you can clean it and have bought it because you didn't even know, and so it's a, typically, I think it's like 14 hours of class. I almost said 2 days, but now it's all different days. And you just walk away with so much. And for people that have good tactile skills already, I'm horrible. I can't cut straight. Although I always joke, I could actually seam a carpet when I left, kind of. It may not have been straight, but I could get it stuck together. But I need help cutting straight. But you walk out.
Seems good, not invisible.
Right. But if you, exactly, that's right. You learn that too in class. So there's no such thing as an invisible seam. But so, I gained useful skills that I use daily. I really mean that, because we're always dealing with flooring things. And so for us to understand a lot of this, I mean, it's in our world every day. And so that particular class is just so well done and so valuable. Not only can you gain skills, but just the general knowledge you gain.
Yeah. And then, I mean, these are some of the things that we want to get out there, like on our free website, as we start building out like a consumer website is literally, because I mean, I'll put it to you this way. It's a funny story, and I talk about it all the time. So we have an office in South Mississippi, and we were selling it. And the 2 back rooms of carpet were trash, and they're very small offices, 8 by 10 type rooms. So it's like we're walking through a big box store, who shall be renamed nameless, who gives free installation, and you get what you pay for. And literally, the guy comes out, because my wife loved the carpet. She looked as beautiful. Says, well, okay, hold on, I'll see what it's made of. And okay, yeah, good manufacturer, good carpet. Actually, it'll work fine. So the guy comes out, long story short, to install it. And I saved putting the baseboard on until after he was finished, because that way didn't have to worry about nicking the baseboard with one of his tools. And he's like, so where's the baseboard in the second room? And I'm like, well, I was going to put it down afterwards. And he looks at me and he says, but the baseboard is what holds the carpet to the floor. And yeah, there you go, Paul. And I'm not making this up. This is, and he goes, the baseboard is what holds the carpet down, actually, I think would be more of a verbatim thing. And I'm looking at him and says, well, what about the tackless strip? And he's like, well, what about the tack strip? And I'm like, well, the idea is you go for the tacks and face towards the wall, kind of.
Oh my gosh.
We stretch it in place. It's called the stretching carpet. And he goes, what do you do for a living? And then I told him, and he's like, oh, well, I don't have a power stretcher on the truck. And, it's like he knew a little bit about what he should have been doing, but,
You still pay too much for labor.
Yeah, exactly. Free install. And, and then the funniest part was, it's like we had to have him come back out and roll it back up, because he actually didn't tape the seam on the pad. So when he dragged the carpet over it, he actually rolled the pad in one spot. We didn't catch that. So, it is there, man. And so, we laugh about it, but a homeowner wouldn't know that. Somebody like me, I'm like, okay, man. Okay, the free install, now it clicks. I can't complain too much because of the price, but damn. And, it was funny, but I use the story all the time because it literally happened. And I mean, it's like, come on, man. The baseboard tucks the edge underneath it, so you can't see the edge of the carpet. Maybe it hides the edge of the carpet, what's holding it down. But that was an interesting comment.
We've gone through, and we've said a lot of our listeners, viewers, depending on how they're getting the podcast, are in the installation community. I'm sure they enjoyed that story just because they deal with that every day.
Yeah.
Hacks doing it wrong and them trying to charge a fair price to do it right. But in the restoration industry, you hire installers direct, you work with subcontractors, you replace a whole lot of flooring. What do you do to find installers? How do you find installers? Where do you go for them? Do they have to do a lot with the subfloor, or what's your process there, and what your expectations of installers?
Yeah, well, we typically look high and low because we always need a team of, from wood, vinyl, tile, carpet. And so a lot of times we'll take care of the subfloor and or can save it. It just depends on the project, our manpower in-house. So honestly, any installers that want to work with restorers, just start banging on the doors because they will have a conversation with you, and I think would roll a red carpet out, because that's how we would do it here. If somebody approached us and said, I'd like to get on your flooring installer subcontractor list, we would roll out the red carpet for them for sure. And
That's good to know.
yeah, absolutely. Really, I mean, we are touching floors every day. When I say touching, there's nothing we do that a floor is not affected. And I know from my flooring friends, you guys are very passionate because you're like, the world is built on floors. We live on floors, but you're right. And, so really anything that affects a structure, a building, a property, commercial, residential, whatever, a floor is involved. And so whether we're drying them, saving them, repairing, replacing, we are dealing with them literally every day. And so the more expertise, the more help we can get, the better.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, when I first started Cargo Care, and then which turned into Munter's Moisture Control in New Orleans, I went through 4 flooring companies, finding somebody who would.
New Orleans?
Yeah, that's where I started out at, and so go ahead. Oh,
I was going to say, that's trial by fire right there.
Oh, yeah. Well, hey, man. Well, I grew up in the city. As a matter of fact, oddly enough, my family's been renting commercial property since the 1850s. So I actually knew people to call. And they were like, man, well, you're a restoration company. You go in and you dry out that floor and save that floor. And, man, you're a competitor of mine. And I'm like, no. Actually, probably 70, 80% of the floors we replace of the hardwood variety, and when you're talking about carpet, it's probably up in the 80-90% range, and there's no such thing as like drying a vinyl floor. It either didn't get wet underneath, or you're going to tear it up to dry whatever's underneath. So they're either always gone or always saved. And even when they're damaged, the wood floors, even if we dry them, typically need a sand and refinish. So one of the great flooring companies down in New Orleans back in the late 80s, early 90s, when I started the biz, was White's Flooring, and White's used to do all my hardwood flooring. As a matter of fact, he used to invite me out to his fishing camp because I was one of his best customers, throwing him more business than anything else. Plus, we got along well. But it was kind of weird. But the restorers need the expertise of the knowledge of the type of floor, the cost of the floor, the construction of the floor, and those type of things, and especially the cost and value replacement options, repair options, because the problem is that you're good at putting everything back together, but you don't know everything about everything as a restorer, even though I'm sure there's a few out there who believe so. But you need that expertise, that technical expertise, and especially when you get into the exotic, expensive hardwood floors and those type of things, because if you don't, you make a mistake. And I've seen, I've seen literally people tear out a gymnasium floor and throw it in a dumpster. And it's like, do you realize what we could have done with that maple? It could have been reclaimed. You threw it in the garbage can, man. And so that's the kind of thing, it's $30,000 worth of wood maybe thrown in the garbage can. And it's like, wow. So they don't understand. And they, like Lisa said, it all starts with the floor. I mean, this is the first thing that literally gets wet. Everybody overlooks it. And it drives me nuts that subfloors and stuff is not part of the water damage curriculum, because it's like, how can you dry it if you don't even know how it all goes together? And
you don't know what it should have been to begin with. How do you dry it?
So literally, now the only thing with restorers is that, sometimes people are getting used to getting paid, like 15 days or 20 days or whatever else. And unfortunately, a lot of restorers work for insurance companies, and insurance companies aren't quite so observant on their payouts. So the one thing I will always tell anybody who's doing flooring in the restoration industry is work out the payment schedules and make sure you got that handled up front, because it's going to vary a little bit depending on who's paying the check initially, I guess, if you will, out there.
Right.
But no, man, no matter how good you are, you need that expertise out there. And now a hard surface is just getting crazy. So it's so interesting.
When you have an installer come in, have you generally done all of the subfloor repairs, so the only amount of prep they have to do is whatever the flattening and leveling, or do they actually come in and help restore the subfloor for you?
We will often take care of the subfloor. Again, it depends how big it is. I mean, if it's when things get more involved and just longer time periods, just because of the nature of our business, we try not to hold up a crew for like a week project or something. So it really just depends on our in-house schedule. We have, again, our particular company, every restoration company is different. Some will have all trades in-house, some won't, some will just subcontract repairs, some stay away from repairs. So every restoration company is a little different. There's not a right or wrong. We specifically have pretty much every trade in-house. So it's more about managing our resources and working with the sub. So the sub may say, I can take care of the whole thing, or hey, I can get there Monday. You can go ahead and take care of the subfloor. So it's constant communication and working as a team. And that's really what the types of relationships we want. There are a couple, Chuck mentioned, at the onset, there's a couple things that are different in the world of restoration. So one thing is a big thing, if anybody's ever heard of the term ITIL. So we are almost required by almost everybody we work with. It's almost part of the way we move. An initial water loss is that we take a flooring sample and send it to ITIL, which is a third-party testing laboratory. And so they'll do an analysis of the product, and they'll actually give us the price, and that's what goes in the estimate of the subfloor, and if there's pad, if there's subfloor, and whatever else from wood, vinyl, carpet. We're required to send what we call, did you send the ITEL in? So
that's the business to have. I'm gonna check
so
every piece of flooring.
just doing the report.
That's in an insured loss.
Sounds like somebody's brother-in-law got
I
this
mean to tell you, that's the biz.
Well, now they have some of our people we work with actually require us to use it. There's an app, and so everybody's messing around with the kit. We have like a kit to run the flooring sample through, and you get like 3 average prices. So it's pretty. Now, if you have an odd situation where you literally can't find that material at that price, you can communicate. But again, we have to communicate, because when it's an insurance related loss, we're returning it to pre-loss condition, period. So everyone's got to stay on the same page with that. So if there's pre-existing conditions, homeowners want upgrades, businesses wants an upgrade, we all have to stay as a team on the same page and make sure we know who's paying for what, really,
Hey, Chuck, you got to talk to us a little bit about that background there. Your background behind you.
Yeah, you have to describe it, because some people are just listening.
That's the truth. Yeah. Well, so if you're standing there, you're not quite sure exactly what it is around me. It's some kind of stage or something no one can quite realize. And the reason why it looks so futuristic is it's actually 3 feet of river water reflecting the ceiling back and the top of the walls back across the surface behind me. So I'll slide to the right, and you can even see the chalkboard being rething there, and the pews as they just disappear down into the water. So it's actually flooding in the Grand Ole Opry movie in the theater area, not movie theater, obviously, in the theater.
It took me a couple of minutes to figure out what it is, but you can see where the water is above those pews, and that's amazing.
Yeah, and the flood waters came in, and literally a few of the pictures were sent out to me saying, okay, listen, I need, we're talking about, what kind of flooring is underneath here. I was actually consulted on the pews, and we were just talking about the wood. And then, of course, they had instrumentation people in, because all of the magnificent instruments and so much that was stored at the facility, tremendous amount of history. So there was a lot of restoration people involved in it. Actually, thankfully, the flooring was fairly simple. It was a very expensive carpet, but at this point in time, definitely not worth saving. So scraped it up off of the concrete, and the carpet went back out, and then the pews came out, and were dried and then refinished, and then the beautiful carpet was reapplied back down again. So
Did they have to oven dry them, or did they have enough time to just let them dry?
the pews, basically, the good news is the water kind of went up and down fast enough to where they were still dryable, if you will. So that was actually the last chance. There were two discussions on to whether the pews were going to be removed and put into an exterior chamber, which was my recommendation, simply because of the fact that way they could go ahead and start removing the carpet and start drying the concrete down, and some other people were just going to cut the carpet away and dry the pews in place. So there's, you always have these different kind of bids and concepts that come in because there's multiple ways of doing it. And it's kind of like which one's going to be the best and most efficient for that particular project. So they basically got dried and refinished off site, but they didn't get wet long enough, thankfully, to have to get into a slow bake oven dry process. Because that's the thing is, when you got to kiln dry something because it's literally going back to driftwood wet, the amount of wetness, then it becomes a real intense project. And unfortunately, people make mistakes and take something that wet, try and dry it fast, and wind up cracking it and destroying it because the center has not gotten time to release its moisture through the wood.
So just for my own, how old were those pews?
That is a question that I do not know the answer to. The Opry land, let's see, the Opry itself is from the 30s or 40s. I would expect these were original.
Something is not going to be replaced.
No.
Can't be replaced.
No,
Yeah.
And there was amazing because they had a few restoration companies that came in the musical instrument world. The Smithsonian helped step in. It truly was a fantastic project, and the people there, I video consulted on this thing for literally a day or so, once or twice while I was somewhere else in the world. It was, like I said, one of the first projects I had done that on. Another one, I was on my 20th wedding anniversary, and a friend of mine said, "How much is it going to cost you to get to Houston?" I said, "I'm on my 20th wedding anniversary. I'll let you talk to Jean, my wife, about what the cost will be here. Will get me out of Cabo San Lucas." And they're like, "Nah, we'll send you some photos. We know the price tag's not going to work, man. We probably replaced the building for that price." So, but this one here wasn't too bad, and so it was literally a massive effort to get after it quick, and because the issues is when you get into the instruments, you've got the soundboards, and you've got the multiple plies in the guitar manufacturing and everything else. It is truly amazing when it comes into it. But the hotel next door, the Opryland Hotel, flooded. There was just millions of square feet of carpet in that hotel, and all down the river. It was really a mess. But
Imagine.
yeah, and it's not something that won't not repeat. Unfortunately, they're on a floodplain there, right along the river, the Cumberland there in Nashville. So it makes one wicked bend just downstream. Unfortunately, when it rains a lot.
Back it up.
Yeah, they do good. The TVA does a great job with the dams, but sooner or later, they all fill up and they got to spill water. So, but it's nice to know that's behind it. But that's the idea about it is, it's a classic example here is, what do we have down here? Do we have down $30 a square yard? Do we have down $90 a square yard? Is this wool? It's the first thing. We had a rug came into the plant, and they were sitting there trying to get the red bleed out of some of the white areas. It was a presidential seal rug. And I'm like, man, first I'm looking at it and I'm like, that's a wool rug. And they go, what do you mean? So I pull a couple strands of the fiber and do a burn test. It's like, well, the first thing you got to know is what you're working on.
What are you working on?
Organic material. This is not plastic. That's why it bled so bad, because they couldn't bleed. They never seen one bleed so much. And I'm like, yeah, well, that's because this is organic fiber. So it's ready to rock and roll. It's not plastic that's been pre-filled dye site wise with clear, whatever else. materials. So like Lisa was saying, you were asking, it's the courses you take that allow you to make those decisions. Well, let's first find out what it is, then we'll determine how we can remedy the issue with it. And that's where the crossover is. It's the construction of the materials, whether you're putting them down, whether you're maintaining them, or whether you're debating on whether to replace them or restore them. You need to know the construction of the materials. And all three industries basically all have that same fundamentals, and it's just exciting to be a part of, and it's natural disasters happen. So if you're there and you can pick it up and put it back together and make it a little less tough on everybody, it makes it just that much better, so.
Were you involved in Katrina cleanup any, or?
Oh yeah, I was here. Katrina.
That's an understatement, huh, Chuck?
Yeah, I've got pictures of that. I lost 2 houses in Katrina. I was selling one, and it just moved into my beach house. So it leveled my 3,800 square foot beach house and completely relocated my 1,100 square foot previous house on the bayou back over a couple more bayous. And the office survived, but our warehouse was laid flat. We took hurricane force winds on the nose for 17 hours. And right down the road from us is the power company. And so literally the eye wall passed, the northern part of the eye wall, like degree number 5, passed over our warehouse. And then the bottom of the eye wall passed over the top, over our warehouse as well. And that's when it gave up the ghost. The winds, it handled the winds going one way, but when the wind shifted the other way, it blew it back the other way. And it literally it laid the entire warehouse in its entirety back flat on top of itself. So.
If you haven't been on the ground watching the eye of a hurricane go over your head, it's eerie. It's a sick feeling because all of a sudden there's just this clear circle going over your head. And I've seen that. It's not good at all.
No, and the pressure change that you feel is really different, and it is odd, so to speak. As a matter of fact, I thought I was going to be seeing it as Sally is passing right by over here hitting Mobile, but no. As a matter of fact, we did the Beau Rivage Casino, Palace Casino, several other hotels, the Hancock County school system. So my friends in the restoration business, we put a tremendous amount of equipment out there. My entire rental fleet was rented out for weeks and then purchased, and I built machines, but we got hit. Our manufacturing company, well, it's really kind of a custom job shop. I don't call it a manufacturing facility, call it what it really is, but it's 10 guys in a welding torch, as we used to joke about. But the literally, it laid the warehouse.
We call us two dumbasses on a microphone. So,
well, and the way I look at it is, this is the way the best stuff comes out, man. And so, yeah, that's how it is. Our design started off of a scratch pad, literally. But we built machines. And 9 days after we got hit by the hurricane, we were back up in manufacturing because we had a plan for our business that if we were going to get hit, which down here is more like when you're going to get hit.
Right.
Is literally, so I had literally backup distributors for control panel manufacturing and blower shipment and aluminum welding and whatnot. And we just got in components from other places and kept on building. So it was kind of interesting. But you never know. But Katrina was a serious butt whipping, man, when it comes down to it. It was so large. We hadn't had a hurricane that powerful, that big before. We've had Hugo, Andrew, categories 4s and 5s, but they were relatively physically small in size. With Katrina, the water, that's why I got out. I told everybody, look, there's no staying here. This thing is not to be reckoned with. Mm-hmm. You're dealing with 150, 160 mile mile-an-hour tornado, basically, that's going to hang out here for about 12 hours. And, it's just nothing was untouched in its path, I guess, is the biggest one I've seen. I was literally 140 miles away from the eye, and I was still experiencing hurricane force winds almost over as far as Panama City, Florida was where I was heading to. And,
wow. How long did you have to wait before you get back to your shop?
Well, it was gone. So basically, the Sunday we bugged out, and once there was Sunday morning, it was 120-mile-an-hour storm, early, like 4 a.m. And it was kind of like, hey, we can board up and hang on to this. At noon on Sunday, well, just before noon, 11 o'clock, 10:30, somewhere in there, they came out, 10 o'clock advisory. It's 180-mile-an-hour Cat 5. We just laid the plywood down and I told everybody, time to go.
Go. Goodbye.
Right now, the best thing to do is let the water blow through the doors and windows and hope the structure stands. But reinforcing the coverings, that just makes a larger wall, surface impact wise. And, but the house was laid flat anyway. It didn't make much difference. So we all got out, and Monday we rode it out. So Tuesday we chainsawed our way back down the highway with the RV. And I got to the office on Tuesday, which was 13 miles inland. And we couldn't get down at all on Monday evening down to the bay in the coastal areas. But once we got down where we could cross over on Tuesday morning, we were able to get down there with our large dualies and high water vehicles and things like that, because it left behind about 2 foot of mud in a lot of areas. So the 8, 10 feet, 12 feet, 20 feet of water left, but literally there was a coating of 6 inches to 2 feet of mud covering everything like snow. So the worst part is you didn't know where the road was, where the ditch was. You didn't know if there was something in the road. So
For the swamp, there's 1 or 2 swamps down there.
yeah, and I mean, I had never actually seen that before, because it didn't happen in Andrew. It basically cleaned everything down to the sand, and the same thing with Hugo and Carolinas. It hit. And it didn't leave behind a lot of mud like that. This storm, it was really treacherous driving because you didn't know what the heck was underneath the mud, and it was a little freaky, but
Well,
like
everything there's a bridge to get in there. So trying to navigate the bridges, I can't imagine how.
yeah, when you see literally 6 lanes of concrete bridge just lifted up and thrown into the water by the wave action. Because this is what happens is the bridges, the pylons here, and the cap is sitting on it is just on there by weight. So every time the wave hits it, it just kind of moves it a little bit each time. And then all of a sudden, the whole bridge just falls in the water. And now you got pilings going from one side of the bay to the other. So yeah, it was
They fish
amazing.
them out and put them. They fish them out and put them back on then, or make new ones.
Actually, oddly enough, most of the time they're breaking into pieces and stressing past their limits when they fall in. But I heard that they did that on the I-10 going back into New Orleans when they put half of it back together. They literally had twin bridges. They took what was missing on one and put it onto the other one. And then I heard that they resurrected a few pieces off of the lake bottom to put up top. And then the Corps of Engineers and the U.S. military came in, and they have the metal bridging capability where they can literally expand out almost like a fold-out bridge, if you can imagine such a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And they literally just assembled it on top of the pilings and patched a good half mile or so of the 12-mile bridge with metal framing. So really kind of wild. It's amazing how things go.
That's scary. We love New Orleans. We go there. We usually go once a year. We didn't go this year, obviously, for COVID. But yeah, so we learned a lot and read a lot about Katrina, and it just interests me to always hear those stories. I didn't mean to take the whole thing on the sidetrack, but to me, I think it's, as long as everything's okay, I like hearing those stories about Katrina.
Yeah, everybody rebuilt. When you guys get down there, we'll have to do a real behind the scenes tour, and I can take you up to some real personal places that are real interesting stories behind.
Nice.
And show you some pictures. There's a few villages that are just now completely gone. Where I grew up at was the little fishing village is now completely gone, man. But so you never know. But
wow.
That time it always changes. But the city's now stronger than ever. The coast is nicer than ever. So it's like everything else. It gets beat up and then you just build it back, But I'll tell you one thing, they sold lots of floor covering in a couple of years after.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. Our distributors thrived.
You
Well,
re-floor an entire city, that does take up a lot of material.
Yeah, well, now you got Lake Charles to take care of, and it looks like Mobile may be next because the way this thing's moving really slow like this, there's gonna be a lot of flooding in Mobile without a doubt.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody in Mobile, our thoughts and prayers are with you, especially
Yeah.
Pat Hilliard. He's a good friend of mine, Hilliard and Son.
Yeah.
So we'll, I'm going to hang up, and when we hang up, I'll check on him. So I didn't realize it was going there.
It's going to be a rainer mostly. The good news is the winds are down to 80 miles an hour. By the time it gets to Mobile, the winds will probably be 60. So there'll be a few trees falling over, but it's mostly flood rain water because it's moving so slow. This is going to take literally 36 hours from when it starts hitting the shoreline, which it just did this morning, until sometime tomorrow afternoon when it's completely clean of it. So it's an incredibly slow moving storm. And
It's going to hit us.
yeah, it's going to probably make that bend. Might catch you guys right up there in the top of the mountains. But I tell you, it's a great place. I went up the mountains in Greenville, and I was north of you guys, and I was up there. This is before the days of GPS, everybody. Okay, it really was like full wheeling before we had a thing that told us exactly where we at. And I'll run into a guy up on the top of the ridge as I come back halfway down, and the guy's like, "Hey, well, where are you at?" I says, I'm good as long as you can tell me whether I'm in North Carolina or in South Carolina. Because if I'm in North Carolina, I'm on this road. If I'm in South Carolina, I'm on this road. And then I know which way I got to go. So all I need to know is what state I'm in, actually. He's like, follow me on down. So he took me right on down, man. I tell you, that's great. I love the mountain country up that way. It's fantastic.
That's beautiful. We love it. We absolutely love it.
Got it. Cool, man. So, yeah, I mean, there's no end to truly, before we got off on that path, there is no end to restorers and floor cover installers. And truly, sometimes, like Lisa said, full due to construction, reconstruction, as well as putting in the flooring, sometimes we'll take care of it at a time. Most of the time, it's literally just a reinstall over and a replacement of what was there before. So a lot of times it's not too difficult at all. But, and then customers, sometimes they like to upgrade, change things.
Yeah, I think we got off topic a little bit today due to me. But I think we could have a whole other episode. One thing that we like to focus on here on the For You podcast is career path. How do we get to where you are, and how does someone get into restoration? And I think we could do, maybe we'll get you guys together again soon, and let's talk about what needs to be done, because there's certain certifications that you need to have, obviously. But there's a lot of guys who are looking, and gals who don't want to continue installing until their 50s, 60s, and 70s. Mm-hmm. So they're looking for options, inspections, sales, technical, restoration, things like that. I think it would be a good topic to cover.
I've got in my chicken scratchings here just to give everybody an idea of what kind of classes they put on. Let's see if I can read this. My handwriting. Applied microbial remediation, applied structural drying, basic construction for restoration professional, biohazard training, infectious disease and biohazard decontamination, carpet cleaning tech, carpet repair and reinstallation, insurance for the restorer, color repair, commercial drying, media blasting, upholstery and fabric cleaning, fire and smoke restoration, fire and smoke odor control, moisture mapping and monitoring, water restoration tech. These are all classes that are offered throughout the year at Restoration Technical Institute.
And we take requests, Paul. We take special requests too. We always say, tell us what you want, because that's how we come up with new curriculums.
Okay.
That's how we learn.
As a matter of fact, I can tell you, Sonny, one of the best success stories is right there is Lisa. That definitely has a path to restoration that's exceptional and different than a lot of people's as well. We'll have to showcase her one time there. Because I'll tell you, the company Burke's Fire and Water, what they do in the physical size area, the people size area, the population that they have is truly amazing. It's like competitors come and go all day in there, because it's like they have mastered the art of building the team, doing it right, and standing on your reputation so that you can stand there for a really long period of time. And you can't do that without the right team members. And that's the whole idea. That's why Lisa really got into the training side of things, was literally to, like you guys were saying, build it all better. Because we build it all better, we build up the whole group. Everybody does better. Everybody, and you start getting recognized for what it actually takes to do it right. And that's one of the things that we really like to hear about. But
Nice.
lots
So
of classes.
How do they get a hold of you, Lisa? How do our viewers reach you? Where do they go to reach out for classes? And how do they get scheduled for them if they want to attend?
Awesome. So they can go right to our website, restorationtechnicalinstitute.com. We are working on a shorter one. And I don't know what we were thinking 8 years ago. And they can also email me at lisa@restorationtechnicalinstitute.com and chuck@restorationtechnicalinstitute.com, and our phone numbers there. So we encourage people, whether students or just industry affiliates, we're here for everybody as a resource, whether it's not just classes, for just tips or pointing me in the right direction, connecting me. We're here for everyone. So everyone's welcome to always reach out to us.
Well, we want to thank you very much for joining us. Thank the ballerina for.
I will. I hope I don't get in trouble. Well, and thank you guys so
you're in
much for
trouble.
having us. I know. I'm scared.
That point's passed already.
I'm really
I'm
scared.
just trying to figure out
Yes.
how we're going to talk Mark into doing anything
I
else
know.
for
I'm like,
us
should I
anymore.
call him immediately after I get off this call? I don't know. He's done with class at 5, so we have 8 minutes. So no, we really appreciate.
Bring it up. Nobody's going to bring it up. No.
Okay.
Everybody.
Yeah, right. It's a podcast. Doesn't that go out? No. So we really appreciate you having us, and we would love to kind of get you guys out in front of the restoration pros, in the near future, because I think, this is something we've all talked about for years, is the overlap and just the lack of, like, let's learn each other's stuff, because it helps each other so much. And so we would love to keep the conversation going for sure.
I think we can do a live podcast from your facility.
That'd be awesome.
That'd be cool.
That'd be
Yeah,
fun.
that would be.
I'm free that week.
I keep
we have
telling
to-
Paul
we'll
to
have to-
get his butt down.
Yeah, we could do that. We could actually do one from the flood house or something like that. And that'd be pretty sharp, because it's now not just the flood house. Now it's the demo house. Well, actually, it's the demo building, I guess, technically, because we've got most every type of flooring down there. So we could definitely do something like that out of it.
Nice. That would be fun. I'd like to do that.
Sounds
Yeah.
good.
Absolutely.
Well, this is usually where I start the outro music. Does somebody want to hum something? So we then.
Chuck will sing, Chuck will sing. There you go.
Thanks for being on. No, I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. Thank you,
All right,
guys.
thank you.
See you
Take
guys.
care.
Thanks, man.
Bye.
Bye-bye.